Good morning. It's Friday again here in South Wales, and it's looking like it's going to be a beautiful sunny day. I know the weather's forecast to be about 16 degrees Celsius, so I am really hoping to get out for a walk later on this morning. Not too late, because if I leave it till lunchtime-ish, then the sun's too high, too strong, and my skin gets a reaction. Perhaps I should go out now, but it's still rush hour and I haven't had breakfast and things. And I'd prefer to do some drawing first. And there's always sunblock. So 16 isn't that too hot, but it is the sun, because my skin really doesn't like sun anymore. But I finished a drawing last week. You can just catch sight up here of my little notebook I showed you last week as well. I finished the serendipity one, and today I thought I'd start on passion. And I've just penciled in my outlines on this piece of paper, which is 21 centimetres by 21 centimetres, which is about 8 inches by 8 inches, give or take. And this week it's very smooth. It's Bristol board, which is very smooth surface paper, which is brilliant for drawing on. Not so much for adding colour in any way or wet media. You can use airbrushes on it, but there's no way I'm going to. I don't have an airbrush, and I prefer to use digital media, as I'm discovering all the time. And I've just penciled in the word passion. It's not central. It's nowhere near central. But that's okay, because it will be part of the design rather than standing on its own. So I've penciled it in to make sure I get the letters looking as I want and the thickness more or less the same, and I can make small adjustments. It's just a guide. And I've also penciled in a border around it, because I like that white space around the letters, and I'll decide how I'm going to start to add my patterns. But I'm going to use an 05 pen just to ink this in. Ooh, that's got hair on it, we don't want that. Bit of fluff. It's always lovely to draw on really smooth paper. Pens just glide along it. I think I've got the right glasses on today. My problem is I've got so many different ones. And it's still relatively early, and I still haven't had a full cup of tea, so you'll hear me stop for tea time to time. I love tea. I like tea to taste strong but not be overly brewed, so it's 2 tea bags in a huge mug for a short amount of time, just to get the flavour. Enough flavour and colour out that it's great, but don't leave it sat in. See, I am adjusting these letters a bit as I go, to make them just that little bit more perhaps consistent with each other. This is hand lettering, because I am literally drawing the shapes of letters. I'm not writing them, as opposed to calligraphy, which is more writing the letter forms. It's more of a formalised, practiced style of handwriting, I suppose, or writing. Hand lettering isn't so, and it suits my sensibilities artistically as well. And this one I am going to change just a bit there, a little bits there. But that's my word for this series of videos. Passion. So art is one of my passions, perhaps the main one, and no matter what the art is, I really do enjoy art very much. I say I try to. It's a rare day that I don't do some kind of drawing or art, whether it's traditional like this or digital. And of course, when I've got a deadline looming for a book, things tend to get a bit hectic. So there we are. So that's just the word passion up there. Now I'd like to turn this into a bit of a frame, but I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. So I will double it up. I'm not going to worry about keeping these lines entirely straight. There will be some wobble in them because they're hand drawn. And that's fine. There's a little, overcross there, but I'll deal with that when it comes to finishing things off. Oh, and I've managed to smear one. The thing about Bristol paper is that the ink does stay wet for a bit longer than it does on other kinds of paper. It's a very smooth surface and the surface finish on it. But that's fine because things like that can be dealt with or hidden in some kind of way. So as I was saying, art is my main passion, but it's not my only one. There are many things that I really enjoy, just as there are for you. So let me know, drop me a note in the box, let me know what your passions are, within reason, because it's always interesting to get to know people. You're getting to know a little bit about me as I talk through these videos. Now, the flower that is this, is a symbol of passion are roses. So I'm going to draw here, very kind of stylized rose, perhaps reminiscent of Rennie Mackintosh, Charles Rennie Mackintosh, and his particular style, I suppose, of Art Nouveau, I think it was. Very simple, bold lines, often with squares mixed in and other patterns. And it's very classic, and it's something I've always loved. So things like this will creep out into my artwork from time to time. Art Nouveau, I suppose, is close to a passion. Looking at art is as well. So that's a kind of rose there. I can't see the central bits in the middle, but that's fine. But it's very stylized, and I quite like that. And although this isn't going to be very Art Nouveau-y in any way, shape or form, my drawing, that too is fine. So my other passions used to be reading, but I sadly was ill for a couple of years. Quite open about this. I have, so I'm sure I still have traces of it, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I had a burnout, a breakdown, I don't know what. Part of it, I lost my ability to read or to process reading, and at times even to make sense when I was talking. It was quite hilarious, apparently. But it's been hard getting that ability back. And it's happening. I enjoy reading, but I can't sit and read for hours like I used to. But what I have discovered are audiobooks, and I absolutely love listening to them whilst I draw. It's a story. It's something where my imagination can work surprisingly when I draw, and it's just one of those things. So audiobooks for me are great. But I read all kinds of books, factual, fiction, funny, I suppose, as well. So that's another thing. And I really do need to make more time, or develop that sense of, I say sense, is building time every day into reading. And I got a Kindle stuffed full of books that I've not read yet, as well as many around the house that I've bought when I've seen them, thinking, right, I'll get these read. And of course, because I find it hard still to retain that information, don't get me wrong, it's improving all the time, but it can be very frustrating when I read something and then I turn the page and I can't remember what I've just read. And it's not because I'm not paying attention, I am, but it just doesn't seem to stick in my mind the way it used to, perhaps. Perhaps I'm just being hard on myself. It's just one of the side effects of, what happened to me a few years ago. Thankfully, I found the right kind of therapy. I did EMDR for a few years to undo all the traumas from my past, or to help me not undo, but to process them. And serendipitously, just before lockdown, a month before, if that, not even a month, I'd come to the decision that I was good enough to move on from EMDR therapy with the blessing of my therapist. It wasn't something that I just, right, I've had enough, I'm off. But we agreed I was good enough. Doesn't mean that I won't need help in the future, because things will happen in life that will drag stuff up that's so deeply hidden. Because I'm aware that there are things that I've stuffed deeply down as a child. And I'm not aware of things. There were things that came up during therapy that I had no awareness of, and really surprised me, and shocked me and distressed me even. But, it happens, and perhaps it's made me the person I am today in many ways. So we all have choices about how we react to things. But enough of that. So those are my passion. Those are two. So art, reading, information. I'm curious as anything. It's the scientist in me. Somebody will say they don't know something, and before you know it, I'm either looking in books or more often these days doing a quick Google. And of course, I don't always believe everything that turns up on Google, because it depends what I'm looking for. But I know of sources that I can trust, that are reliable, that are knowledgeable, and use those more than anything, perhaps. So that's important. It's curiosity. Nature I've mentioned before, and if I get the chance to go out for a walk today, or I say if I get the chance, I will make the time. I must probably do it while I'm uploading this video, because it'll take ages to upload and be processed by YouTube and ready to publish and what have you. It would be fab, because where I go to walk, where I feel safe still, is a huge cemetery and crematorium near me. I say huge, it's not huge on the grand scale of things, but it's big enough to have a really good walk round, zigzaggy up and down roads and paths and things. But I went there, not yesterday, the day before. Oh my gosh, the spring flowers. It was so beautiful to see. I've forgotten that primroses and violets and celandines and bird's eye speedwell and lords and ladies and others just still existed, because this time last year, through spring last year, we couldn't really go out of our houses, and the cemeteries were all locked. You weren't allowed to go there for a walk or anything. They were only opened for funerals. And I missed the whole of spring, and I forgot what a thrill it is to see such things. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. So nature is one thing. Although I'm still not venturing very far from home here in the UK, our lockdown restrictions are being slowly lifted in Wales. We're able to travel anywhere in the country. You can go on holiday, to self-contained holiday accommodations and so on, but I'm in no rush to, unlike other people. One of the downsides of lockdown for me is I've always had a fair amount of social anxiety, and it's been intensified, and so rushing out isn't something that I really want to do. So I've got some roses here. I've got 4, you see, and I like an odd number, so I'm going to tuck another one in here, I think. It's a big one, but that's okay. They'll work. They do. It's a lovely thing. Well, nature doesn't order things by size, and humans tend to plant things in numbers, but I do like an odd number. There we go. And perhaps just a couple of leaves here. These are unusual leaves for me, but they turned up in this week's colouring template, so I'm just going with the flow with them. They'll do. I'll make them lovely rich green against, it's probably pinky red roses. Red is the colour of passion, and not just romantic passion. It's that passion you have for things, for life, for what you enjoy doing, what gives you that oomph to get up and go in the morning, I guess. For me, it often is art. So, let's recount, because I've forgotten: art, reading, nature. Music is another passion, and music and audiobooks tend to compete when I'm working. And as to which I prefer. If I'm doing my social media posts, it has to be music, because I can't do those and concentrate on an audiobook. I end up having to rewind chapters. There we are, just to finish this off, because I love a spiral. Oh yeah, I'm passionate about spirals. Spirals are so nice anyway. Universal shape, found all over the world and in all cultures, from all kinds of times. Why? Because spirals are lovely. I'm sure there's some deeper meaning to them though. But for this morning, I'm going with because they're lovely. Because I love them. I'm going to colour this in black because it looked nice. So, what kind of music? All kinds. If I like it, I like it. Not paid or to promote or anything, but Spotify is my app of choice, and there are so many playlists already created on there. I think my most listened to one is most probably anything indie, or my own playlists, perhaps my own favourites that are curated for me. I don't know, but it's whatever works for me at the time. All different kinds of moods, and of course the earphones go in and I put some happy upbeat music on when I take a walk, because that walk is also joyful, but that music helps me perhaps move a bit quicker than I would ordinarily. I'm not the fastest walker in the world, so there's that. So, another passion. I also played musical instruments. When I was a child, I started secondary school here in the UK. We had our first formal music lessons, and Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra by Britten was played. So you got to know what the different instruments were and so on. And then we were offered music lessons, which at that time was free and available to anybody as long as there were spaces available. And I fell in love with the flute. But by the time I plucked up courage to ask, I had a choice of the only music lessons left were double bass or cello. I was desperate to learn to play an instrument, and I chose the cello. And I did have lessons for about six years. And I loved it. I enjoyed playing music, being part of an orchestra. I sang in the school choir, played recorder. But that flute was always something I wanted to play. So I went home, told my mother, who in her typical unsympathetic way told me that I was stupid for wanting to play the flute because I've got the wrong shaped mouth and I'd never be able to play it. A few years, gosh, it's got to be the best part of 20 years ago. I went to a concert. I'm talking rather than drawing. But I went to a concert in Cardiff. Jethro Tull playing late 60s, 70s and onwards prog rock folk band, I suppose. And I'd always loved them. I'd never seen them in concert, and I phoned up, was lucky enough to get tickets because it was actually the day of the concert. I'm not going into the full story. And went along and thoroughly enjoyed it. And it reminded me just how much I loved the flute. Ian Anderson, who heads up, is Ian Anderson? Yeah, who heads up Jethro Tull, is the most amazing flautist in the world. He does things with a flute that perhaps should never be done with a flute. But no, I say that, they should be. And it just reignited that fire in me, that passion in me to play flute. So I got home that night about, it must be close to midnight. And what did I do? Go to bed? No, I was straight on the internet and I was hunting around for flutes. And one that was decent enough for me to learn on, but not so expensive that if I really couldn't play the flute, that I could sell it on and I wouldn't lose too much in the way of money. So this flute arrived. Can't remember if I had it, early the next week, I think it was. And it was even better because I managed to get this flute half price. It was in a half price sale. I ordered some tutorial books because I thought I'm not going to put book lessons yet, or perhaps never, because there were issues, shall we say, and with me personally and my confidence, and I had some bad experiences with music teachers in the past, or a music teacher and instrument teacher, and I really didn't want to repeat those. So I thought, right, I can read music, I'm sure I can follow instructions in a tutorial book, and let's see where I go. Well, the flute arrived. I discovered I could actually make a note on it, and with practice I played it. Now, throughout the time I've had a breakdown and since, I've neglected it very much, and I've lost my embouchure because I went back to it a few days ago, and again it's something I think I need to set an alarm or get a daily schedule going, because I don't really have a daily schedule. I tend to wing every day, and of practicing playing my flute. Not just that, I did buy a guitar about the same time and discovered that me and guitars, there's a reason why I had one as a young person and never really coped with it, is because my fingers are really they're quite small, perfect for cellos, but not so much for bridging across guitar necks. Somebody said, oh, well, if Muddy Waters can do it with 3 fingers, you can do it. And no, it just doesn't work. I just can't get the pressure on the strings. And I'm not au fait enough with guitars to work my way around it. So the guitar is still here. that a few years after I had the flute, a couple of years after I had the flute and was playing it and helping out with the school orchestra because I used to be a teacher, which amazed me that I could do that, I bought an electric harp, an electric folk harp. Beautiful thing, clear, lucite plastic, it's like ice. And you can play it without the amplifier. I bought an amplifier for it. And I started to learn it, and then everything went, with my emotional well-being, went bottom up. We don't say that, but went all askew with. And I just got out of the habit of, I just couldn't practice. It's not like, and as a result, I got out of the habit of it. But it's still here. It probably needs a good tune, but I've still got everything for that somewhere, I'm sure. And that was lovely, because I, as well as learning to play the cello as a teen, I had piano lessons. I've often said I'd like a keyboard or a piano here, but I need to have a serious clear out again to make the space for such a thing, and perhaps I will do when, I will get the clear out. There's loads of stuff that needs to go and things that need arranging, but I'm still working through it in my head. This is one of the side effects, or perhaps who I am, is that I need to be sure of something before I do it, when it comes to moving things around the house or making decisions to get rid of something. All my old art, traditional art media, old, dried up now, not fit for purpose. They all need to be sorted out and gone. I need to make space as well for storing what I do have and what I do use, all the new books and sketchbooks and artwork and so on, because there's just so much of it, because I draw every day. So there we go. I think that looks a bit odd there, so let's pop one of those funny seedy things that I like so much. Don't know what it is. It's that contrast, that black against everything else. So those are passions. What else? Steam locomotives, steam trains, old-fashioned steam trains. There's something about them. I haven't travelled on one for many a year, but I used to be a member of a heritage railway and would help restore things. Usually found me running the buffet on the service trains, which was always good fun. Once I'd got over it, I was determined when I joined the railway that I would not be the woman who was stuck in the buffet, because that's what women do. But I ended up doing it as a favour one day and found out I really quite enjoyed it, until my mental health started declining. But I had a lot of fun there up till that point, I suppose. And I got to drive a steam locomotive on a different railway, and diesels, and travel on the footplate, and it was great fun. And it's something I look forward to doing again in the future. It's just something thrilling about just the smell, and I start smiling and excited about it. So why? Who knows? I just go with the flow on that one. I've mentioned about architecture and going out and visiting old churches and abbeys and so on. And this is some passions. Cooking used to be, and I still love cooking, especially if I've got people to cook for. Sadly, not so much for myself, because I think, it's only me. And yet when I make the effort to do something like Indian food is perhaps my favouriteest, then I really, really enjoy what I've done. And I wonder why I don't do it more often. And then the next day I go, it's only me, why bother? And so we go. Okay. I can't think what I want to put here next. It's nearly half an hour of wittering here as well. But I'll come back to this probably next week. Perhaps I'll sneak a video in before, it depends how I feel. And said you've got a little bit more about me, about some of the things I'm passionate about, and a little bit about struggles I've had with emotional health, its knock-on effect on my mental health. But I'm fine. I'm doing well. Like everybody, I have days, but they don't last for long anymore, which is the most important thing. And I accept it as emotional weather, just like the weather outside, and the weather can affect my mood as it can everybody else's. So as I want to go out for a walk today, and this will take a while to process, and I haven't had breakfast, I haven't showered properly yet. Oh, I haven't showered. How can we say I haven't showered properly? I haven't showered yet. I want to get that on. It's just gone 9 o'clock in the morning. And so I'm going to wrap this one up in just half an hour. How's that? So, any comments, feedback, let me know. Positive, helpful, please. And any passions you'd like to share, or any questions you'd like to ask, just leave in the comments. And I just hope that you enjoyed listening to me talk and watching me work. So all it needs to me is to wish you a very good rest of the day, to ask that if you enjoyed this to like the video, think about subscribing to the channel. I am doing a video every Friday at the moment, occasionally an odd extra one. I did one last weekend with showing how I colour things in digitally. But it'd be most welcome. And just take care of yourselves. And whatever you have a passion for, find time to do it every day. It's good for you. So take care and see you soon.